Good afternoon and welcome to another midweek video. Glad to have you join in with us today. Wanted to start out today by just simply saying thank you to all of you who have been following us online Sunday mornings. As you know, the last couple of weeks we've been doing some live streaming of our Sunday services as we've been able to start coming back together again. And of course, as usual, when you're starting to do something, it usually has hiccups, some things that don't quite go as planned. And we're so appreciative for those of you who are watching, giving input, helping us to grow as we continue to do this. And our desire, our hope is with each week we improve, just so that you are also aware that as the video quality may not have been the greatest the last couple of weeks, we apologize for that. It'll probably still be a little bit like that this week. We're waiting on our new camera to come in, and once that does, hopefully our picture will be a much better picture, higher quality, and we'll be able to stream our services well. But we're glad for those of you who can join with us online, and we're thankful for the input and the things that you have been able to share with us as well. These midweek videos, we've been looking at the story of Daniel and living with excellence in exile. When our kids were young, we had almost all of the VeggieTale videos. Our girls loved the VeggieTale videos. And there was one that I particularly liked, and it was actually the story of Daniel in Daniel chapter 6. And it's that story that I think a lot of us maybe love. It's the Daniel in the lion's den story. And I love the picture that the VeggieTales bring in. You see the satraps and administrators of the area where they were not liking Daniel. And what's interesting is to see the reason why they didn't like Daniel. The reason they didn't like Daniel was because Daniel was a man of integrity. And in Daniel chapter 6, we actually see that Daniel is now in his third ruler over him. Remember, this whole time, Daniel has been in captivity. And this whole time, he has served with excellence. Even though his home was taken from him, his identity was taken from him, and he is now serving a ruler that is, oppressing his people. But yet he does it with excellence. And today we see the third one. Darius is the king, and actually Darius takes a liking to Daniel, and it says that he had kind of put himself out above the rest of them, that the king saw in him exceptional qualities. He was trustworthy. And one of the things that these guys, they didn't like Daniel, and so they said, we've got to find a way to get rid of Daniel. We've got to find a way to get him out of the picture because we don't like the attention that he's getting and is taking from us. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that they came to, and it's interesting that in the early part of that story in Daniel 6, they say the only way that we are going to be able to get Daniel is if we find a way that deals with his God, with the rules and the laws of his God. And so they devised this plan. And in Daniel 6, it says that they went to King Darius and they said, King, you're the greatest, you're the best. And you know what? We think that you deserve everyone's honor. So we think that you should make a decree that no other gods are to be served. No one is to be prayed to except for you. And if anybody chooses to disobey that law, they would be thrown into the lion's den. Now here's what's interesting to me, because living in exile requires high integrity. We've talked about a lot of different things that Daniel has done up to this point in time, but understand where this whole story comes to this one point. The only thing that those who opposed Daniel could do was actually to attack his integrity. Integrity is who we are when no one else is watching. Do we do what is right even when no one is watching us? And here we see in Daniel's situation, he always seemed to do what was right. He served God in a way with high integrity. He served the kings over him with high integrity. And so all of a sudden, the satraps, the administrators, all of these guys that didn't like him, they could only do one thing. They could only go after the thing that they knew that he would do right by cornering the king. And so they did. They came up with this plan. They went to the king. He put out the decree. And what's interesting is this. They knew Daniel's integrity so well that they actually were in waiting and watching for Daniel to make the move. And what we read is amazing. It says, even after the decree was given, Daniel, as was customary, every day he would go to his upper room, he would open his windows, and he would pray. Daniel never stopped doing what he knew was right. What an incredible picture of living with excellence in exile. You know, we live in a time where everything seems to be different. We are called to live differently. We're actually, many times, we're asked to compromise in what we believe God has said to us. And yet, we can live with integrity in the midst of all of this. Daniel, living with excellence in exile, lived with integrity the whole time. What about you? What do you do when no one's watching? What are you like when you're home alone? What are you like when the chips kind of go down? Are you the same guy? Are you the same godly person? Always, no matter what. Daniel was the same, whether he was around people or in his own home. And the reason why God blessed Daniel was because he lived with excellence by integrity in exile. How about you? Are you living with excellence in exile?